Hi guys, Ostrom here, and today we're gonna talk about why you are losing so much games in Arena. One of the most important thing is when it comes about Arena is the positioning. You can easily feel when there is a critical positioning error. For example, if you're a warrior and you charge in and suddenly you die at the opener, and then you are asking that, yo, why I'm dead? Or where is the healing? Or when you are a healer and you're constantly getting focus kicks so you cannot heal your teammates and you're asking like, what should I do here? I can't cast. And there's a lot more of these. But don't worry, I'm here to answer these questions. First, let's see what we're gonna cover in this video. First, I'm gonna talk about the general rules of positioning. Then I'm gonna talk about the positioning tier list. I'm gonna give you examples when it comes to positioning in 2v2, and later in the video, I'm gonna talk about how to play with a Warlock and how to position your port as a Warlock. Keep in mind that the positioning rules in every WoW expansion is roughly the same, but the positioning tier is not. Since I'm mainly playing Breath, my example is going to be from this expansion. So let's get started. Positioning rules. So there are three positioning categories in 3v3 mode. The double melee, the double caster, and the melee plus caster one. Since I'm playing melee casters, we're gonna talk about mainly of the double caster and the melee caster positioning. So in a category, there will be three matchup. For example, as a double caster, you can face against double melees, double casters, and melee plus casters. And I'm gonna cover all of it. So when it comes about positioning, every single time you should ask, what do I achieve with this? Or, as a team, do we gain something? Are we losing or winning in this position? If you don't have a years of experience in positioning, this can be hard to decide. But don't worry, in this guide, I'm gonna cover the fundamentals. So after you watch the video, you start winning more games. So let's start with how to position as a double caster versus a double melee. I think this is the easiest matchup as a caster POV. In every matchup category, I'm gonna represent my team with a green and the enemy team with a yellow glowing effect, since in Arena there is a green and yellow team. So when I'm gonna cover a matchup category, these teams are only for representation. These positioning will apply for all comps. So instead of TSG, I could pick one guard and so on. It does not matter right now. Most of the time as a caster cleave, you wanna maintain distance from your teammates. So you wanna form a triangle formation, what you can see in this picture. With this, you can max range your healer and your teammate so they can just free cast without any interruption. Although this is the goal, when it comes about reality, often this isn't the case. But the goal is that with your position, you should help your teammates to achieve that, or the teammates should help you. When the matchup starts, the double melee going to pick a target which they can tunnel down. What should you do in this position? You wanna drag the melees out to the open midfield, or if you can drag them to max range, cause then their healers needs to move from the pillar so you or your teammate can CC, kick, or just annoy it. And also, you create a scenario where you or and your teammate can just free cast against melees. For example, you are playing LSP, and the melee creeps start hitting the shaman. The lock can move up and start casting fear on healer, interrupt, stun, and start free casting against melees. If they start turning the lock, your teammate can move up and do the same. Also, you should keep the triangle formation always, so if needed, your healer should switch position too. So where to drag the melees on the other map? For example, in Ruins of Lordaeron, you can drag the melees either to the corner where the eyes spawn, or in the starting room. In the starting room, you can just root them, and since they are LOSing their healers, you can do a proper setup. But you can do this on every arena too. For example, on the arena, you can drag the melees down to LOS their healers. So their healer need to leave a pillar. If you have a knock in your teammate like Balance Druid, Elemental Shaman and Fire Mage, you can knock the melees down and either you switch to healer or just start cleaving the knocked enemy down and seizing their healers. The same thing can happen in Blade Edge Arena. If you have a knock, you can position yourself on one of the pillars. But the same general position can happen here too, as you can see in this slide. And lastly, you can drag the melees down as well, or they already go down since they don't want to deal with the open midfield. If you are low, you can always go down because the worst case scenario, you will port up. If you don't have a Warlock, or sometimes a Mage for a bait, you either wait till they leave the pillar, or the two casters should go down together and help each other to kite the melees up or to the open. As a healer, you should stay up. Let's move on for the double caster versus double caster positioning. Usually, there will be a team which is going to dominate this by standing at the open midfield and the other team is going to abuse the pillar. Or if there is a similar comp tier list matchup or a straight up mirror, then both teams can stack around the same pillar. So if there is a dominant team, then their goal should be to keep their healer in a safe spot and not letting the other team to push. In this matchup category, you will need to learn the comp tier list in order to know which team going to be the dominant. So let's see an example. LSP versus God comp. Spoilers, LSP going to be the dominant team here. So let's see what the LSP should do in this situation. As I said, the goal is to protect their healer. And they can do that by max changing their healer. So if the enemy wanna push and kill the Holy Paladin, then they need to cross in the entire map, which is hard against a burst comp like LSP. LSP will outperform the God comp by damage wise, but not just the burst the only problem for the God comp. If they were both at the open, the God comp slowly start losing the game since they need to deal with Wind Shear, Granite Totem, Knock, Roots from Shaman, and Shadow Fury, Fear Spam, CS, and even Devour Magic Dispel from the lock. And on the top of that, the Paladin can just max range Dispel every CC what a Mage or even the Priest could land. So then what should the God comp do? Since Nagrand isn't a small map, the LSP might wanna push up. Take a look at this position. The LSP move up to make goals. There can be two different situations here. Either the healer is on the same pillar as his teammates, or he can just switch pillar to avoid AoE CC and damage. So in this position, they doesn't need to cross the whole map. So they can just rush to the enemy healer, and in this position, they can just triple fear Nova to cross seasons and slowly kill the Holy Paladin. You can ask why they need to kill the Holy Paladin when they can try to kill Destruction Lock or the Elemental Shaman. And the reason for that is that the Destruction Lock has Nether Protection, Shaman has damage reduction if he gets stun or silence, so it's really hard to kill those as a god comp. But let's say the LSP has an Affliction Lock instead of the Destruction one. So Affliction can be the target too for god comp, but they still need to push to the healer to CC it, cause LSP going to outperform the god comp by a lot. No matter what, their win condition will be to push out the healer and either CC out or just kill it. What about on the other maps like Ruins? On any other map, the position will be the same. So again, a dominant team like LSP is winning if they won't let the other team to push the healers, and the god comp is winning if they can cross the map and do a go against the paladin. In Ruins, you can temporarily push hard against the enemy team if the waterfall is on. The next category is double caster versus melee plus caster positioning. From the double caster team POV, it will be similar like against double melees. You need to drag the melee out at the open, and if you can, drag it to max range. And in the meantime, you and your teammate can push up and interrupt and CC the healer and the caster. Or the second option can be that you wanna run them down and cleave them down. I will give you an example what I mean by that. As a melee caster team, one of your most important positioning rule is that healer and the caster is always played together. As a caster, your job is going to be to defend your healer from CCs. The melee job is usually to maintain pressure and help his caster teammate to do damage and CCs. Against double caster, the goal is to usually push to the enemy healer so they can interrupt or set up and kill it. Let's see an example. LSP versus RMP. Let's start with how to win as a double caster against melee caster team. So as you can see, the LSP goal is to maintain the triangle formation while they are max ranging their healer. So in that case, the RMP cannot really push, the same reason why the God Comp could not do either. So what happens if the RMP make a go on a lock in this position? So the rogue is on lock, and because of that the shaman can just push forward and start interrupting and CC the enemy healer and the caster. Technically, the shaman can just stay at the open and free cast as well, but this is the best case scenario for LSP. But in this case, the rogue will have hard time for retreating and most likely needs to use major cooldowns. Let's see what the LSP should not do. So as I said, the melee caster team goal usually is to push for the enemy healer so they can interrupt, CC or force CDs and kill it. So what the LSP should never do is drag the melee to their own healer. Cause if that happens, the RMP can push up and start winning the game. As you can see, the RMP can just start cross-CCing and do whatever they want. Let's see another example. LSP versus TC, the two most dominant team in Wrath. Let's pick Ruins of Lordaeron Arena for this one. So when the game opens, there can be two options what the LSP can do. The first is the general one. You already seen this position by the LSP. So what is happening is the LSP stay at open, they drag the warrior in room, meanwhile the other caster, right now it's the lock, is pushing to the enemy healer and caster, so the lock can do whatever he wants there. Or you can drag the melee out to the corner. So in that way it's hard to retreat for the melee. Although this can work, but there is a better solution here as well. What if the LSP is pushing to the tomb? So in this positioning, they can always make a go on the enemy paladin. Or it's easier to LOS the warrior in the near tomb, like at the open midfield. So for example, if the warrior starts tunneling the log can just drag the warrior in LOS and pour back whenever he wants, so the mortal strike effect will fall off. With that, you can help your healer to top of you. And you can make a go to the paladin as well. Let's pick an arena where the shaman can knock, but instead of the shaman, it could be balance, druid, or fire mage as well. So your job is to take a position where you can help your shaman to knock down the enemy. In this arena, it can be near to the box or any edge of the arena. The deeper you are in, the more damage you can do with the knock. But if you have a knock, like a shaman, you should always try to make an impact with a good knock by positioning yourself well. What I mean by that, at higher level game, you can see triple knocks like that. With a good knock, you can force major CDs or even win the game. And last example of this matchup category is the pushing one. So our team is the Elemental Shaman, Frost Mage, and this Priest. The enemy is a TC, so we're gonna learn it in the next section, but we already seen it as a god comp, that there are non-dominant caster creeps like this one. So although they can drag the warrior at the open and try to win by raw damage, but it's easier if they just push hard on the TC, because then similar than god comp, they can just cleave the TC down by triple rooting, double purging the paladin and run the paladin down. On the other hand, the TC goal should be to protect the paladin by denying the push go. The next matchup category is going to be the melee and caster mirror. Just like in the double caster mirror matchup, here will be dominant and non-dominant or less dominant comps. So let's see an example. Subrogue, Balance Druid, this priest versus TC. The TC is one of the most dominant team in Wrath, meanwhile the sub-balance disc, these classes doesn't really like to be at the open. So let's say the warriors are tunneling the balance in this position. What should the balance do? Can the balance stand the TC pressure? No, the balance cannot Since the warrior and shaman has so many interruptions, they have a huge constant and burst image as well. Moreover, the shaman can just purge and interrupt the disc every time in this position. So the balance should not drag the melee out to the open. Instead of that, the balance should drag the melee into their LOS, where they can one-way free the warrior. And with this positioning, the enemy hero should leave the pillar, so the balance sub-team can either make a go or just start seizing the paladin and start winning the game. What TC can do in this position, if they creating a really good pressure, the shaman can just push up a bit more to annoy the caster and the healer as well. And lastly, melee plus double caster versus double melee. The most important positioning error can be here that you let the double melee charge at you and cleave you down. So in order to deny that, your melee should immediately go to the open and start slowing the enemy down and let the caster do his job. Again, healer plus caster should move together, but if the caster is getting tunneled, do not bring the melees to your healer. So let's see an example. Warrior Log Druid versus DK Enha H-Ball. So this is the optimal position as a melee plus caster against a double melee. The warrior charges in and slow the enemy down. And with that, the warrior can just start casting, dotting up the enemy. If they decide to go on log, the log can jump down and port up anytime. If you have a log, then you can drag to near the box, just like LSP versus TC1, and knock the double melee down. Next topic going to be the matchup or comp tier list. Matchup or comp tier list is the flip side of the coin. You should learn how to position, and this position will apply for every WoW expansion, but you should learn which team should be at open in the expansion, cause that is changing every time. Also, instead of ranking the classes by on, how dominant they are, I rather rank the comps, and the reason why I rather do this is the following one. Let's say you are playing Shadow Cleave, aka Affliction Lock, Shadow Priest, and Rest of Shaman. With this comp, you are one of the most dominant team, so you can just go middle of the arena, dot everybody up and slowly burn their HPs down. But what if we change the affliction to a mage? In that case, you are no longer a dominant team, you rather make setup goes. So you need a pillar and you need to push as a team in order to win. So the classes have to adapt based on what comp they are playing. So let's see what are the dominant and less dominant teams in each category. Let's start with the double caster one. The most dominant comp going to be the LSP and a shadow play. And then Mage Lock Healer or LSD2, and the least dominant team going to be the God comp or the Elemental Shaman Frost Mage disc. Just to be clear, let's see an example. Let's pick Mage Lock Shaman to be our team. Let's pick LSP against our enemy team. Who will be the dominant team? So which team should stay at open? We learned that by now the LSP is one of the most dominant team in Wrath. So the LSP should be open, because they can do more pressure, they can interrupt more, and so on. But what happens if the Mage of Shaman is going against a Warrior Log Druid? As a Warrior Log Druid, you have only one dispel at every 8 seconds, and that is your dual magic from Warlock's path. So the Mage and Log can freely CC the whole team. So the MLS going to be the dominant team and stay at open. What about melee caster teams? As you can see, the Beastcleave and the TC is the most dominant team, so they're more likely to be at open. As we saw as an RMP, you rather use pillar and try to push to the enemy healer than to be open and constantly pressure like TC or Beastcleave would do. And lastly, double melees. TSG and Turbo are the teams which going to rush you down. And there are double melees like DK Prague or Rogue Ferrar which wanna use as much LOS as they can. Next topic, how to position in 2v2 mode. What about 2v2? Basically the same rules going to apply here as well. The tier list is going to be similar like in Freeze. For example, what we learned there, that the rogue teams doesn't like to be at open or the beastkeep likes to be at open. I'm gonna give you a few examples just to see how easy is that if you learn the basic rules. So let's say we are playing Rest Druid Destruction Log and we are facing against a Warpal. So what we learned that as a caster you either wanna drag the melee out to the open or potentially in LOS, or you wanna do as much setup as you can. So let's say the warrior start tunneling your druid. The druid will drag the warrior to max range, so the paladin needs to leave the pillar, and because of that the log can do WCC goes. If they go on lock, you either can try to go to room and drag the warrior in LOS and start the setup there. If it's possible, the healer should just push out and start CCing the paladin. But usually when it comes about Warlock teams, you will see that the Warlock is pushing hard against Warpath team to do as much go as they can. This is a high risk, high reward tactic, and on higher rate you will see more of this. In longer games you will see both. Okay, but what if the warrior team doesn't want to deal with the tomb and they just stay in the starting room? So as a low druid you have two options here. The first one is to drag the warrior in LOS, where you can 2v1 it, or you can just push for the paladin who is at open and make a go. I'm gonna give you a double cast example as well. Let's say we are playing Shatter, but this could be Elemental Shaman Destruction Lock as well. And we are facing against a Warpaw. As a double caster, you can let the warrior charging you, and you try to 1v2 it, but this usually isn't optimal as double DPS, because you will have a lack of healing compared to a healer. And the paladin can just freely dispel, freedom the warrior. So you rather do a high risk, high reward tactic, so you try to push the paladin where you can do constant setup by doing double CCs. The true example for that is the Shatter. Basically, you can control the whole game if you execute your setups well. The next topic, how to position yourself as a healer with a Warlock in your team. There is so many healers who still don't know how they should position when they are playing with a Warlock. But after watching this video, hopefully they will learn it. The most important rule is to stay in line with the Warlock's portal. Sometimes it's impossible to do, but most of the time as a healer, you should have pay attention for this one. Do not cross the map for no reason. There are situations when portal repositioning can be good, but only when you or your warlock is not under any pressure. Let's see a few examples. My team is going to be LSP and the enemy is going to be TSG. So as you can see, the paladin has a pillar and the warlock put his portal to the other pillar. Healer can stay on the top of the warlock's portal as well, but it's easier to showcase like that. So the TSG pick a shaman to be their target. The paladin is healing the shaman, and all of a sudden the paladin gets a grip by a DK. Let's pretend the shaman is griefing and doesn't use knock. So in that case, the paladin has two options. The one is to cross the map and the other is to go back to his original position. Let's see what happens if the paladin chooses the first position. So let's say the TSG forced the paladin bubbles out, so they wanna give up the chase and switch back one of the DPS. So they decide to tunnel the lock. As you can see, the Warlock cannot really do anything in this position. He cannot kite the TSG because he either has to outrange his portal or his healer. It's super bad. Even if he decides to use his portal, the paladin cannot heal him back because the lock will be too far away. And in that position, the TSG can either grip the lock back or just run the paladin down, and the lock cannot do anything because he will be too far away to help. So instead of doing that, the paladin should go back to his original position. So if the lock needs support, the paladin can easily heal him back. So when is a good time to reposition the portal? For example, if the LSP force out most of the major CDs of the TSG, so the TSG just go back to their pillars and wait for the CDs. In that moment, the paladin can cross with the warlock and reposition the portal. And the last topic, warlock portal positioning. I wanna start with that technically there isn't any bad portal positioning. A lot of rank 1 and really good logs who will use specific portal placement in a specific match at a specific time, which can be hard to understand if you don't have years of experience. So I want to show you the most basic portal placement where you can always put your portal and be safe. I'm gonna give you a few examples of offensive portal placement as well, but those will only be good in 2v2 matches. So let's start with the Nagrand Arena. This is the most basic portal placement for 2v2 and 3v3. That way you can always portal freely if there is a trouble. This is an offensive portal placement in 3v3. In freeze, do not put your portal down to the enemy territory. In twos, you can do that as you can see. The next arena will be the dollar round 1. At the beginning of the match, you can put your portal either next to the stairs or on the stairs. If you're facing comps where you need to LOS after you port, like against the rogue teams to avoid shadow stab, or the warriors team to avoid charge, or the TSG to avoid getting grip back, and so on, you can put your portal on the stairs when you are facing a team like DK Preg in twos, where basically the enemy team won't leave a pillar no matter what. Eventually, when it comes about freeze, you wanna put your portal to one of the boxes. What you should keep in mind as a Warlock, you most likely wanna drag the melee down, and if need, you can port up. But always put your portal in that position to avoid getting gripped, stabbed, or fire charge after you port it. You can reposition your portal when the waterfall comes up, but since it's a temporary LOS, you should pay attention for that. And in 2v2 you can do the aggressive portal position as well. On Blade Edge Arena, you wanna put your portal up to the bridge. For opener, it's better if you put your portal at the start of the bridge. If the enemy goes down, or for example the shaman knocked them down, you can reposition your portal at the middle of the bridge, so no matter where you are, you can use your portal. Otherwise you might overrange your portal. And lastly, on ruins, at the beginning, you either wanna put your portal in the room or around the stairs. Later in the game, you can push up to the tomb and reposition your portal there. I wanna end the video with that, but in the part 2, I'm gonna give you actual examples with clips so you will see exactly what to do in the games. With that, I hope I could help you more. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.